us. Hi, guys. I think we're live. Let's check it out.
It looks like it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. We're live. Whoop, whoop. It worked. Always so exciting. So I am here with one of my awesome friends, and not only that, but she is a super awesome horsewoman. You are. You actually are. Who I'm constantly peppering with questions and deferring to, working with my own horses. And I thought it would be an awesome opportunity for us to jump on and talk today. So this is Katy. Welcome, Katy.
Hello.
Hello. It's a long time no talk. So basically, do you want to introduce yourself? Like, you can do a better job of introducing yourself than I can.
Hi, I'm Katy Negranti. I don't know.
Katy's a horse. Hi. So you're in California?
Yes.
Katy is a horse trainer. Is that your title? Do you call yourself a horse trainer? Or?
I'm a horse trainer. I'm a coach. I am both.
Yeah, both. And working with horses is basically your full-time gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to that, you have also a live training platform, or like an online training platform where people can sign up and do your courses and that sort of thing as well. So there's an in-person element and also a virtual element as well, which is, I've been involved with both, luckily, which is really, really cool. And just to give us a little bit of a background about you, I think from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong all the way along, what tends to happen a lot, or your speciality, is working with problem horses, or problem horses in inverted commas. So horses that have have a specific issue, or for some reason there's been an accident or injury involved with their owner and they're not comfortable working with them anymore. So you're the one that they come to kind of iron out what they might perceive as going wrong. Would you say that's right?
Yes, and it's not something I went into like, I want to fix problem horses. It was just something, it started with a horse that I bought, and I really liked her, and the people said she's dangerous, she's this, she's that, and I took her on as, I don't know, because I could, and she ended up being not what they said, and then more business came my way after that. Like, oh, if she can do that one, then she can do this one. And my string of horses got really big really quick. So it wasn't something I went in like, I want to fix problem horses. I really don't enjoy the bucking, the rearing, the bolting, the that sort of stuff. So my program has evolved into how I can get it done without needing to ride the bucking and the rearing and the bolting and all that drama.
I think that there's like 2 points of interest to me, or certainly why I feel like we get along so well, and also because our philosophies are so synchronistic, is that neither of us are really interested in kind of writing something out, like for the sake of ourselves and for the sake of our horses. Like, the aim is obviously to create a harmonious and mutually beneficial partnership. And often those big issues which people have are the result of not taking care of the basics, or not being able to read the signals that horses show us about their levels of fear or anxiety further down the track, when you're actually able to do something about them in a situation that is safe for both of you and controlled to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's when I get them and they've got these big long stories and all this bad stuff that they've done. All I do is basically restart them, and you teach them basics, and you get the basics so good that they can't get it wrong, and then your problems go away. Like, the problems aren't there anymore. So the problems usually stem from a horse is confused, they're scared, they're basically anything but comfortable and confident in knowing what you want. So when you can get those 3 things kind of lined out, the problems go away, because they don't want to be bad. No. They don't want to do things to make you mad. They don't intentionally do things to spite you. They're really just trying to figure it out. So the better we can be at communicating what we want, and allowing them to learn, and allowing them to make mistakes, the better the relationship is.
Yeah. And I think even that understanding that that understanding that it's not personal, you know, and that there's not that motivation to actually get in there and do something to you because they have an agenda of some sort. And the languaging around that, which we use to describe our horses in those moments, you know, like, oh, he's this, he's that, it means this, it means that. I think that prevents us in so many ways from being able to action a solution or even be open to a solution that's different to what we think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because a fascinating thing that I learned not too long ago was, you know, animals and horses, they lack a developed frontal lobe of their brain. And the frontal lobe is responsible for premeditated actions, long-term planning, you know, higher thinking, you know, like basically, you know, all human traits that we try to put on our horses. The horses don't have the part of the brain capable of it. So anytime we say the horse is doing it on purpose, you know, he doesn't want to do it today, or, you know, whatever the reason is behind it, it's not what's actually going on. So for me, taking that off the table, where horses aren't capable of the things that we think they are, they really just do the right thing if we make it the easier thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a huge part of that process comes with realizing that they don't have the capacity to be projecting into the future and making a decision, like you're saying, about how this is going to affect them and what this means and what's coming next. And simultaneously, while there are conditioned responses to the past, so maybe, you know, they're very much present. They're responding in the moment to what they feel like they need to do to keep themselves safe. And we were having a really great discussion the other day, which I don't know if we're going to be able to articulate in the same way now, about how important it is to be present, and when it is that we are not present. So when we are projecting ourselves into the future or living in the past, which of course is almost our natural way of being. Like, to be present is actually effortful and uncomfortable so much of the time. But I think that when we go to those places mentally and energetically and intentionally, in terms of what it is that we're projecting to them, they feel unsafe because they recognize that we're not in the moment. And for whatever reason, that indicates a level of danger to them. Danger might be a strong word, but they don't feel safe. They don't understand what it's like to live in the past or live in the future. And like you've said, excitement and nervousness are the same chemical reaction. So they don't know the difference between, you know, your emotions, whether it's dangerous or not. They just feel, you know, your heart rate went up, your breathing got quicker. You know, what's the danger? You know? Yeah, exactly. And I think when it comes to understanding like the calming signals or the subtler signals of anxiety, it's not a luxury anymore to do that. I mean, it's not so much an interest. I think it's a necessity in order to be a really effective horse person. And that understanding of behavior and motivation or lack of from their perspective is just key. It's really like not even like, oh, if you're a little bit interested in animal behavior, it's like I don't know how you get by without that anymore.
Well, and I think when, you know, I look back at where I was when I was a kid, I didn't know any of that stuff. And you end up having to go to more extremes to get along with the horse. And with equipment and training techniques. And then as, you know, at least for me, as I've been evolving and learning how to work with the horse instead of making the horse do things, you can do things on a much more subtle level. But had I tried what I do now 25 years ago, it wouldn't have worked. That horse would have killed me. You know?
Well, it's also such a fascination because I'll give you a real life example for some of you that have been following along with my work with Dee in starting him under saddle. And Katy's been like a go-to person. I'm like, Katy, what about this? What about this? And she's just a godsend. Anyway, so what was happening when we started to trot was we maybe have done 3 or 4 sessions that have included back at the beginning. And for all intents and purposes, he looks pretty calm. Like there's not a lot to see if you were viewing it from the outside. And at one stage, I would have given it the tick of approval. However, what I noticed him doing was looking to the outside. So as we're trotting around, he's kind of got his gaze to the outside. And now I understand that to be a subtle or not so subtle really signal that his mind is kind of wanting to be elsewhere, and you can take that as a symptom of anxiety. And so I decided that I actually needed to get things better at the walk, or at least break it down into shorter chunks when we had this discussion. And to me, I feel so blessed to be able to recognize that now, or to have people that can point it out to me, because I feel like little things like that further down the line become really big things which we don't actually want to deal with. And so it just shows you the level of subtlety that you can intervene at to cut off a bigger problem happening further down the line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think people overlook, you know, like the basic stuff that I teach every horse. A lot of people will look at that and go, that's easy, I don't really need to do that. But it's not. It's deceiving, because even though it looks like something you may not ever need, it's something very crucial to teach a horse how to learn, and teach them how to give responses, and teach them how to problem solve and think. You know, it's all the the seemingly meaningless stuff is the most important. You know, the hard stuff down the line, the flying lead changes and the spins and the canter pirouettes and all the fancy stuff that we want to do is easy when you have a horse that's willing to learn, and they're not scared, they're not resistant, they're just there, they'll do whatever you want because you have a good relationship with them.
And it's really like it's the same in horses and humans, huh? If you can get that baseline where you have the emotional agility to come back to a relaxed point, you know, and that doesn't mean that you never leave that point, but you at least have the ability to come back to it, then everything else is gymnastics. And I don't mean that flippantly, because sometimes, you know, there's obviously a lot to that as well, but that's more about training the physical side of it. And if we've lost that level of resistance that comes through the mental restriction or the mental concern that, you know, creates tightness or brace, then you have just this, I think that's the artistry of it. You know, when you look at the difference between a horse and rider combination, say at Grand Prix level in dressage, or a really high class reining horse, and you can see the ones where their mind has come along for the journey, and then you can see the ones where perhaps it's just a little bit more forced. The quality of what it is that you see is so different. Yeah, very much. It's really cool. Sorry. Oh, we've got hi Emma, we've got Darlene from Nova Scotia, Elle. Oh, hi Elle, yay, lots of people. This is really cool. So Katy and I, last year we met physically. We met in California when I was over there for WEG. Hey. Yeah, and Katy is driver extraordinaire. So Katy, Rachel, and I took Warwick and Robin Schiller's horses from Hollister in California, and we crossed the country via many a truck stop to where did we go to? North Carolina. I was like, where did we end up? Yeah, and Katy was blessed with my carpool karaoke.
And Rachel's dancing.
She was open to it. She was responsive. She was full of gratitude for the tunes that I brought to that trip. Yeah. So we spent basically we were together 24/7. Hey, we were roommates. We were lackeys for the crew, and I had such an awesome time. And so the fact Katy is still talking to me shows what a remarkable human she is. Yeah. But no, it's so cool. So what other stuff do we talk about? What else can we talk about today? Actually, I've got a couple of questions, but can you think of some other bits and pieces that would be relevant to the crew right now?
We can go through those. Well, let's go through the questions.
Yeah. Okay. So this one, this actually ties in. This is a question from Kelly this morning on the video that I posted earlier. And I think this ties into what we were talking about being present. But how do you avoid transferring your nervousness to your horse? I'm working on controlling my heartbeat and breathing with lots of singing and positive aids to move forward. I think my 18-year-old horse thinks I'm mad. What would you say? We can both pitch in on this, but what's your thoughts on that?
From a training standpoint, I know for me, I have lots of insecurities when it comes to riding, especially horses that have a bad reputation, or, you know, colts that need their first rides. there's a part of me that kind of gets that like self-preservation feeling, and I feel nervous thinking about having to put those first rides on these horses.
Yeah.
And what I have found is not to ignore the feeling, but not to push past the feeling, because it's not that I'm being a chicken. It's not that I'm I'm lacking confidence for a reason. So usually what I do is I keep doing the things that we're doing until I'm like, all right, let's just get on with it. And as soon as I feel that way, everything goes fine. But if I start to kind of psych myself out, like I'm just being a chicken, everybody else does this and they don't die, and it's
yeah. Or do they die? Where do they die? How?
But usually for me, when I get nervous, it's something I need to stay where I'm at or back up a step and keep building on that until I'm ready to just get on, or I'm ready to do it. Yeah. The other thing that helps me, like last week, if anybody saw all my pictures at the beach. So a friend of mine was in town, and she's a little half crazy, but she's really cool. But she's like, let's go to the beach. And I got my camera. I got my camera. Let's go to the beach and take pictures of going through the waves. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't, I don't have I can't use the same horse that I used last year because he hasn't been very sound. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to use my next option. And he'll tend to lose his marbles a little bit if I get nervous in an unfamiliar situation. So I started picturing all of these horrible things that could possibly go wrong while we're on the beach. And then I remembered. And then I went, wait a minute, why am I doing this? I'm perfectly confident in my horse. Mm-hmm. He's broke. He, if I need him to stop, he'll stop. Like there isn't a lack, you can always train him better, but there isn't a lack in the training. It's the emotions. If my emotions get up, his emotions get up, and then, that's where it's hard. So with him, what I did was I got to the beach a little bit early before she got there. And then I remembered what Jane said in her stuff, where the lesson where you picture your perfect ride. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when I did that lesson, it was actually being able to canter down the beach on a draped rein and have both, me and my horse have that relaxed posture. And so when we got on the beach and his eyes got big, because he's only been to the beach, I think, twice, and we never went in the water. When he got uptight, I went, what do I want this to look like? And I would imagine it in my head, and he would go, and it was the craziest thing. It was like as soon as I changed my thought, he went, oh.
That's so cool.
And it happened so many times. Every time he'd see a surfer, or he'd see people were playing with a beach volleyball, and he'd go, oh my gosh, what's that? And for a split second I would go, holy crap, we're gonna die. And then I would just picture, okay, I want it to look like this. I want it to feel like this. I want there to be, I want it to be like this. Mm-hmm. And right when I would think it, I could feel him just soften, and not all the way. He wouldn't just go from being uptight to being, totally
but enough
mellow.
To have a constructive mindset where you can actually work together.
Yeah, he started to come back down, and by the end of the day, we were galloping through waves. A wave actually went over the top of us, and I thought for sure I ruined him that day. Mm-hmm. And we went back the next day because she's that crazy and wanted to go back to the beach again. I thought for sure we'd go back and it would be, I ruined my horse and I'm going to have to spend the next 6 months working on him. Mm-hmm. We went back the next day on a draped rein. He goes in the ocean.
Yeah.
I went,
that's
oh
so
my gosh.
Awesome.
So it was the feeling that he got. And because I was confident galloping through the water, because I felt like I had that control, because I knew as soon as I'd picture what I wanted, he'd soften. So it gave me a sense of control. Yeah. And then the next day he's like, all right, let's go. Yeah. Let's do it.
That's wonderful.
So that to me, yeah. So your picture of the ride that you want is really, that made me a believer.
Yeah.
Not
and
that
it's also,
not that I wasn't a believer before.
No, but I totally get that. Like, it's a visceral experience. And I think that this might sound a bit peculiar because it's what I'm teaching all day and night, but really I feel more and more till now the point I'm totally convinced where my mind is everything in the equation. Like, if I'm a little bit off or if I'm feeling nervous, there has to be like a corresponding response to that from my horse, whether I'm conscious or not. And so being able to get to the point where you can what you're feeling and have that be resonance with what it is you're trying to produce and have your horse respond to that is so cool. I think it's wonderful.
And that to me really just comes back to all the work, all the basics, all of the, you know, just the everyday habits that you get in the habit of doing. And, you know, it's the connection that you build when it doesn't matter, you know, when when nothing's at stake. And then when you take it somewhere, so the beach to me was like going to a competition, you know? That's when everything comes together. How good is your homework? And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't what, you know, it wasn't perfect, but there's a lot of room to grow, but it was dang sure better than the last time.
Yeah.
You know? No,
it's so cool. I think that this question is something that like we can do a doctorate on. Like, I think actually this is kind of my doctorate. Like my whole membership program is based around this question. But I think what Katy said is so important. What you were saying about not trying to pretend that you're something else. I mean, there's that saying that goes around that I used to be a proponent of as well, like fake it till you make it. And actually, I don't believe that anymore. I think that we have to acknowledge fully where it is that we are and work from that baseline so that you're actually processing the information and taking it to a more constructive place rather than pretending that I feel this way, and then the lack of congruence between what it is that you're presenting to your horse and how it is that you really feel is what creates that transferal. It's like that nervous point of tension. I think where some people get stuck is they think they need to be in a certain place with their horse. They think they need to be where everybody else is to fit in. Yeah. And so they push themselves in those places that they're not ready for. Yeah. And to me, there's nothing wrong with going back as far as you need to go back to find some confidence, to find some, yes, I'm good at this. Let me learn the next piece and work at that until, yes, I got this. And then work on the next piece. It's the same thing with the horses. Absolutely. You know, you teach them one little piece at a time, build their confidence. And that's how you fix a horse, or, you know, you don't ever fix a horse, but that's how you help a horse that lacks a lot of confidence. They're spooky, they buck, they rear, they bolt. That's how you get those horses to be sane again. Yeah. You know? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that question of nervousness or fear or anxiety, like a really good place to begin is to say, like, is this a valid concern? You know, is what I'm concerned about right now, does that have validity? Because if you are in a situation where your horse is displaying a behavior that is outside your competency level or is obviously endangering both of you, then I'm like, well, good job that you feel afraid, because you should be. You know, like, we can get flippant about it. That's basically as black and white as I see it. And I think that's not the end of the road then. That's not like a point of depression. It's like, okay, so how do I simultaneously get my horse and myself to a place where we are meeting in the middle and able to proceed forward together, so that you have a strategy for them being able to emotionally self-manage, so you can get to the stage where you're doing the same, and then you're able to move forward confidently. And I think there's always times where, you know, sometimes your horse is actually going to be further ahead than you are. Like, it's your mindset that's holding you back, and once you come to the party with that, you can catch them up. But another thing that you pointed out earlier, which I find comes up time and time again, is this idea that we have that those people over there don't ever feel nervous or ever feel afraid or, you know, and it's like getting on my horse for the first time. I was definitely nervous about that. Like, the anticipation leading up to it was I had to actively manage how it is I was talking to myself and what it was that I was doing to be able to do that confidently. And I think that he was probably ready for it before I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so the same way that you're talking about it, like it's really just taking the time to make sure that the next step is good before you take the next one. And then by the stage that you get there, and was my experience anyway, I'd developed so much confidence in his ability to cope with what was going to come next by solidifying what came before, that actually any anticipation or nervousness that I had naturally dissolved. It wasn't something that I had to override or feel like I needed to process. It was like, I'm pretty confident that this is going to be good. And so I felt good going there. And I think that's what you're talking about in terms of the processes of making things good before you take them.
Because when when you were sending me videos and it was, you knew you were ready to get on, but I could tell you weren't, I'd say, here, try this. Try this, and I gave you like several more things to do where you're you're still crawling all over him, but you're not actually committed to being on him. Yeah, and you did that, and then you're like, all right, I'm ready to ride.
I'm like, in your face, Katy, check this video out. Yeah, and like the angels appeared from the heavens.
But had that gone differently, like, Jane, you're fine, just get on him, you would have been, oh, I hope she's right. Yeah. You know, you wouldn't have had that. I got this.
I had you on direct dial. I was like, Katy, wasn't correct. Yeah.
So it's all, you know, and it's something Warwick really helped me a lot with when I would take horses to him that I was uncomfortable with. He wouldn't say, okay, you're going to do it. He would just say, okay, try this. Keep working on that until it's good. And then we'll add the next thing. Like, it was never a, he never gave me an ultimatum, like, do this or just, whatever. Yeah. And I developed confidence in him that he knew what he was talking about. Because he wouldn't push me to get it done. He'd just give me the next thing. So I took a warm blood to him one day that had a history of bolting. The lady, he bolted, the lady came off, broke 10 ribs, an ankle. Like, she was in ICU for a while. So I have this picture of this bolting warm blood in my head. And she says, well, he rushes at the canter. So, be really careful when you do that. And I took this horse to Warwick because I was kind of ready to move on, but I didn't want to do it without anybody around. And so in his round pen, halter on the warm blood, riding him. And Warwick said, you can canter, he's fine. And so I tried to get the horse to canter and he wouldn't go. And I said, I can't get him to go. And Warwick said, well, you either get him to go or I'll come in and get him to go.
I'll get him
and
to
it
go.
Was like a split second later, magically, he departed into the canter, and it was just like this big floaty canter that was like a rocking horse. No rushing, no tension behind there. But, I knew I could do it. But then when Warwick said, he at that point, he did give me kind of that ultimatum. Yeah. And I didn't want the alternative, but I knew I was capable of it. So sometimes too, you got to have people around you that are willing to push you, but not shove you. So
it's so important.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this like to people that I'm working with all the time. It's like, you've got to have your people around you. Like, it's like, I've got 2 or 3, maybe 4 people. You are one of them, obviously, that I'm asking questions of all the time, because you want to have that point of reference, in an area where you either don't have enough knowledge or you need to have a little bit of backup. And as well, it's also people who know what your values are, know what your intention is, are aligned with that, so have your best interests at heart and can call a spade when it's necessary to be able to kind of take you to that next stage, I think. So, yeah, it's really important. That's really cool. Let me find the other question. Sorry, I've just need to find where it is. I think it was in Joyride. I posted a couple of different posts and now I've lost track of where the questions have popped up. Sorry, team. Actually, if this is going to take me too long, we can answer that after. So the other thing that I wanted to briefly talk about, where can people find you if they are, I mean, I actually don't want to share you, so I'm really reluctant to do this, but where can people find you if they want to get some help with their horses?
So I started doing these online groups, and it started probably a year and a half ago. And they just kind of came about because the more, I've been giving lessons for a long time. And when it started to come to the point where we'd work on something and then I'd leave them and then come back the next week and they'd go and we'd work on it again. They go, oh, I forgot about that. I wish there was a video or, something to refer to. So it got me to be putting these groups together. And I run them through Facebook. Just, there's a lot of people that do the website stuff. Warwick has a really good one. But for me, I don't want to get that deep into it. But I also want to have the one-on-one with people. So I have 2 new groups that I'll be launching in the next couple of weeks. I'm working on adding material. There's a groundwork group, and then there's a riding group. And it'll basically be like my entire groundwork program and the ridden program. Yeah. So I'll have, the lessons, there'll be at least 24 in each, 24, well, more than that. The groundwork group will probably have close to 40 exercises. So it'll go from your basic groundwork to applying it to obstacles to more advanced groundwork, introduction to liberty sort of stuff, using it for trailer loading. So it'll be quite an intensive sort of a group. So that one will have probably at least 40 individual lessons that I'll film with a horse that already knows how to do it. Awesome. And then I'll have other posts where it'll be examples of a particular lesson. So lots of different horses doing the same thing. Because a lot of times you'll find like one horse resonates with you or your horse, and then you can watch that more of them, and it kind of helps you get an idea of what to work on.
Yeah, then, I found that so valuable.
Yeah, and then I'll have like individual case studies so you can follow a particular horse. So a horse that I have for a period of time, or even just a horse that I have short term, I'll do individual so you can follow Rainy or Wheels or Turtle or
so those are two new courses that are starting up in April. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. And I'll post the link in the comments to this and also on my page later, so you guys can find Katy and access her awesomeness, basically. Yes. All right, lovely. Well, thank you so much. It's really fun to hang out. And we should do this again.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Well, if there's any questions in the comments as well that are for Katy, I can see that there's a couple of interesting ones. I think we have some funny comments on there. I will direct them to you and you can answer them. So that's awesome. Okay, team. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.